So we're
Live.
Hey everyone, this is Jorge Soto from Firstcut,
This is Gabriel Moncayo with Always Hired.
and this is our first episode of Founders Corner.
Yeah, super excited to do this with you, so let's see where it goes.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing is everyone knows that I'm an audio-visual person. Our entire business is video.
Right.
So the audio on this is not great right now. We're going to get better over time. But shout out to David Cancel over at
Drift.
CEO there.
Amazing product, by the way, if you're not using it.
Amazing product. You got to check it out. It's fantastic. We've been seeing what he's been doing with, the Seeking Wisdom podcast.
Really impressive.
Him and David, Dave and David.
Right.
David G, or Dave G over there, who's the VP of Marketing, who's phenomenal. Shout out to Dave. You've been doing such a great job. But the first episode today is something that's really near and dear to my heart just because I'm an incredibly emotional person. And it's the role of emotions in business, specifically, from my seat now as an early stage CEO, yourself as a CEO as well. I know we were talking about, especially me as a very emotional person, how do we actually balance that? Like, what's the balance between showing emotion and showing that you care and being authentic to self,
Sure.
while being professional and I think appropriate or mindful of others in our organization that might not understand, that might operate differently.
Sure.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's a really tricky topic, and one of the reasons I think it's so tricky is because oftentimes with emotion, it's not something that we embrace as a human species or even as a society, right? Everyone's always trying to cover up their emotions.
Especially men, right? Where like society says, hey, you're supposed to be a tough guy, or whatever, you can't cry.
Yeah, and I'd say, I don't know, but I'd say probably also for women, right? I mean, I'm sure women deal with, them being told issues around their own emotions, and men probably, we feel like we're being isolated, right? So I'm sure a lot of people deal with it. But what's really interesting about the emotion is that it does two things if you can do it correctly. So the first thing you want to think about with emotion is it's trying to tell you something. And sometimes if you don't take a moment to pause and think about what it's trying to tell you, you mishear your emotion. Just like if we're talking too quickly and I don't stop and say, wait, George, is this what you meant to tell me? Is this what you just said and I confirm with you? I might misunderstand you. The same thing happens with emotion. If we don't take the time just to breathe and say, what is this emotion? You might confuse anger and jealousy. You might confuse opportunity and lack of clarity. So the first thing is be open with your emotion and really try to understand what it's telling you because there's a purpose. And then the second thing I would just say is think about the emotion the other person wants to experience. When you're having to reprimand an employee, what type of emotion do they want to see out of their boss? Then they probably want to see empathy. When you're pitching a VC, what do they want to see? Then they probably want to see more of the data-driven kind of analytical person. So one is analyze your own emotions and ask yourself, what is the real emotion? I think not too many times we're scared to do that. And the second thing is, what emotion do you want to experience when I'm talking to you? And I think that's one of the ways to start thinking about emotion in a business context.
So you brought up two sort of scenarios there, and the first one being as a manager, as a leader, as a boss, even though I hate the boss, I just hate the whole boss concept. In any case, what's an example of, and I can tell you kind of something that came to mind to me that I deal with all the time, is what is that situation that comes to mind when you question, hey, was I too emotional? Was I not emotional enough? Was I not empathetic enough? Is even empathy correlated truly underneath the hood to emotion?
Sure.
And then the second piece is as a CEO, venture funding or raising money, those sort of things. We have to deal with that whole emotional thing.
Right.
We talk about that all the time. It's like every time a VC passes or an investor, I call you crying. Yeah. And so the first thing that comes to mind for me is I've been incredibly emotional and sensitive throughout my entire career regarding managers or bosses talking to me specific ways or communicating a certain way, and I would a lot of the time sit back and go, gosh, we were so mean. They were like, why did that happen? Like, why was that communicated that way? and make me feel really bad, and I quit or hate my existence there for quite a while, and I don't think that it was until I ended up becoming a manager, and then specifically now as a CEO of a company, an early stage startup, it didn't really hit me what the possibilities were, potentially around what that manager or that boss was experiencing at that time. And what I mean specifically is we were talking about this the other day, and it was, I'm sitting down with a colleague, and I was looking at one of our products and a production we did, and I said, man, it's good and the client likes it, but I wasn't proud of it because there were certain things that I knew that we held near and dear to our hearts within our organization that meant a lot to me. And it was funny because I saw myself getting, feeling the anger inside, my stomach gets in a knot. We have these physiological reactions that really start to say, oh, something's happening. I'm getting emotional, I'm getting angry, I'm getting frustrated. And it was so interesting because this actually just happened a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting down with the team, we were talking about this, and I stepped back and I said, guys, I just want to let you know something. You might be observing that I'm acting a certain way, and I want to actually communicate that it's not something that's not specific to anyone in this room. It's more a sadness that I'm feeling and a frustration just in general, because I know that we want to put out our best effort and our best work every time. If we're going to be a world-class organization and compete with the top companies in the world, right? That this is not really going to cut it. And it was interesting because as opposed to maybe in the past, I would have sat down and maybe communicated with anger or frustration, or as I've been sort of saying is, communicating with energy, this strong, heavy energy behind it. When I sat down and I was able to say and communicate that and say, hey, this is what's actually going on within me so you can understand, then it was interesting because what I saw was the team started to sort of come up to me and rally and join me. I didn't want to make everyone sad, depressed and stuff, but they joined me in that energy. Sure. And then we looked at it and said, we want to do a better job. What can we do to do that, right? And it was interesting because you think a lot of the time, kind of referring back to my story with previous managers, they were probably, or CEOs, they were probably dealing with something very heavy in general. Sure. And it happened to be that I met with them at that moment, and then that was communicated, right? And so, what does that say about our emotion? Again, how do we start to become more mindful as leaders? Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think it's really tough. I think a couple of things there. One thing that's cool that George said is that you were meeting with your team and you really identified your emotion, and it seems like you didn't let your emotion control you, and you used your emotion for good. And what I mean by that is you used it to galvanize your team. So I think that's a great sign that emotion can be used for good when we're in control and when we're being proactive with how we're using it as a toolkit. So I think that's one thing. I think the other thing with emotion is that in the example of the boss you said, right, we weren't thinking of the other person, right? A lot of times we interpret emotion as one way because that's how we are. So how am I feeling about this? Not why is this person acting this way? And I think sometimes when we start to ask questions like, why is this person acting this way? Even if your boss is being rude to you, it gives you a chance to almost one-up your boss. Yeah.
Well, are they being rude?
Is the boss being rude?
Yeah. Or is that my interpretation of the energy or the emotion that's being displayed in that moment?
It's such a good question because if you think about, okay, I'll give you an example, okay? And hopefully I'm not offending anyone here, which is probably nearly impossible to do in 2018, right? But if I think of Italians, right? Italians famous for talking with their hands. Yeah. So I remember once I was in a sales environment where this Italian person was talking to another salesperson.
By the way, you're Argentinian.
I am Argentinian.
There's tons of Italians there, so you love Italian. He loves Italian.
I do, yeah.
My co-founder is Argentinian Italian.
Yeah. So this is
I have Italian blood too.
Yeah, out of endearment. So anyways, the Italians, which is not bad, it's really good for sales. They talk with their hands and they talk with energy and enthusiasm. But to a salesperson that was new on the team, it came off as hostile, and it came off as aggressive, and it came off as not being a team player, and it came off as telling them what to do. And the reality was, both people were right. The new hire was right that the emotion they were feeling was wrong, and the person who spoke with their hands was also right in saying, I don't appreciate the way this person's treating me. This is just who I am, which is fair. So I think, again, what's really important, it isn't a right and a wrong. Sometimes, you get in a fight with your family or your friends, and you're both wrong, and you're both emotional. So it's not about right or wrong in emotion. It's about the true empathy and the perspective of the person you're talking to, and finding that middle ground as a human being. So,
Awesome.
I don't know if that's too conceptual or vague.
No, that makes sense to me. So what's the answer? Like, when we're looking at emotion, is emotion a tool that we could use, as you were mentioning earlier, to be able to drive action and to communicate exactly what you're feeling? Or is it something that should not be in the workplace?
Yeah, I'll be really honest. I'm still figuring this out, and I don't necessarily have the answer. What I can do is I can share my experiences. So one of the things that I've felt in my career is emotion was driving me. I wasn't driving my emotion. What I mean was I was being reactive. Go ahead.
No, I love where you're going there. No. Keep going. I just wanted to remember that.
Okay.
Reactive. Cool. Wow.
Yeah. So in an ideal world, I'd be able to use my emotion to create change. I know when I'm angry, I can be passionate. So if I can channel my anger to passion, I can win at a higher rate. I know that the emotion of being afraid to lose can trigger my paranoia, so I think of every scenario, and I make sure there's always a way to win. Right? So there's ways, but I'm not sure I'm doing that enough. I think that's the ideal scenario. So what I have started to try to do is just to recognize what emotion I'm feeling. That's been hard for me. Half the time I don't know what emotion I'm feeling until I look at the result of an action and I see a result I didn't like, and then I look back in hindsight and I say, no wonder I got a result I didn't like. Look at the emotion I brought to this situation. So now what I'm trying to do is identify, how do I feel when I get certain emotions? So I'll give you an example. I want to be really level-headed. I never want to lose my temper. I never want to yell or anything like that, but I don't do it. I lose my temper more than I'd like to, right? And what I've learned is that when my blood pressure goes up, when my face gets flushed, like basic things like this, I know I'm getting mad. So me getting mad is no longer a reaction. I'm trying to sync my mind and my body. So my mind listens to how my body is reacting to my atmosphere. And then I can say, hold on, I can tell I'm getting angry. Let's pause for a moment so I can regroup because I'm feeling the symptoms of anger. So I'll take a break there, but that's how I've been approaching emotion and trying to just draw solutions and stuff like that.
One last question.
Yeah.
Something I think about a lot, just because everyone who knows me as this very emotional person. Sometimes they call me very passionate. I'm not quite sure. As a salesperson, I was pretty much trained in sales as a door-to-door salesperson. Now, it's been such a long time since I've done actual door-to-door that I've been trained in the enterprise and B2B for quite a few years as well. But one of the things I remember when we were learning to do door-to-door sales, and of course we're think about it, we're knocking on doors, it's just, you've done it too, and there was one sort of statement that always stood out that I was super excited about. It was that sales was a transfer of energy, right? And being able to get super excited.
Right.
But sometimes I think I've been misunderstood and in my communication in general, and people were thinking that I was selling all the time. Or oftentimes people are like, hey George, it's cool, I get it, I love it. I'm like, no, I'm just passionate and excited and emotional about this topic, in this case video, right? Video marketing and stuff like that, right? What is your take on that? Like, I know it's something I've been incredibly insecure about a lot, right? And nowadays I'm like, oh my gosh, was I talking too much? Even in my personal life, I go out to the bar or whatever, and I'm like yapping away about whatever. And
true story.
Totally, right? But what's the balance? You as a sales expert, what do you tell your students when you're sort of trying to teach them how to communicate, what's the good balance. Like,
Yeah.
I guess, is there too much?
Yeah, I think, like anything, there is too much, number one. I mean, 70% of our body is water, but you can die from drinking too much water too quickly, right? So I think in anything, there is too much of a good stuff. I think we can all agree with that. Moderation is key to life. I also think that in that situation, it's all about context and timing. And that's one of the things that I'm trying to share with people around sales, because there's so much content now out there that as a salesperson or a professional, it's hard to understand if this is really relevant to your specific use case. So I think context is really important. But the reason I bring that up is because how did the other person want you to emotionally react? If you're in front of a conference and you're in front of a speaking engagement, they want to see that you give the people what they want. In this environment, maybe they didn't want that. You wanted to give them that because you're the founder, and it's fun for you to talk about your company, and it's fun for you to go to work, and that's why you're good at what you do. But maybe in that scenario, they didn't want that, George, and you gave them something they didn't want, and that's why it created that friction. So what kind of emotion do you want me to engage with you with? And when I think of that, whether I'm at the bar, right, I'm gonna read your body language, right, to decide if I'm coming at you really excited, or if I'm kind of coming at you a little bit more chill, right? If you're a business partner, I'm gonna probably if I'm meeting you cold, and again, it's an investor, I'm probably gonna tone back my enthusiasm. If I'm meeting you and you're a fellow founder, I'm probably gonna give you everything I have. If it's a sales call, I'm probably gonna be somewhere in the middle. So you have these different levels of emotion depending on who you're talking to. And then you're trying to match up, it's almost like marketing, you're trying to match up your audience with your content, right?
Okay, thanks so much.
Oh man, this was awesome.
This was fun.
Hopefully it was helpful.
Absolutely. Everyone would love to hear what your take is on the role of emotion in business as a founder, salesperson, whatever it is that you do within your organization. Would love your feedback on that. Comment there or wherever it's going to be. We'd love to hear it. Thank you so much and have a great day.